All right. So if you're a married, busy parent who is looking to acquire 1 to 4 rentals a year, or also insert flips, um, and it's been really hard between kids and work and just life in general, you can't even find deals to look at. You're in the right place. So I'm Jay Helms. I'm founder of BRRRRs for Busy Parents and the W2 Capitalist. In the last year, I've helped at least 24 busy married parents find more rentals, either off market or on market, and which adds to our hundreds of families that we've helped with our community so far. And today I'm going to show you the same system that my wife and I have implemented to help grow our portfolio. Also, the same system we've helped these other married busy parents grow their own portfolio. And this does not include cold calling or hiring a VA team. Nobody likes to do that, especially me. So it's just a simple off-market system that fits around family life, right? And so I'm going to save you. Actually, I'm gonna save you tens of thousands of dollars because it took us 3 to 5 years and about that much money to figure out this whole system. Put all the pieces together, and I'm going to show you that system today. And we're going to focus on one particular market, and the reason that is because we're looking for additional members to join us in our community. And once a member joins our community and they lock that market down, we don't advertise or want other members to come in. Well, matter of fact, it's called zip code lock is what we do. So we lock down zip codes per member. That way, when people bring deals to the underwriting calls, which is what we're going to do today, they have the confidence knowing that nobody else may kind of scoop under, swindle I don't know what the phrase is there. Anyway, they may try to get the property from them because their zip code is locked. All right, so we're looking at, and you're going to have to forgive me. I should have changed this. This is, I should have changed this because I'm going to struggle with pronunciation of the area that we're going to look at. It's spelled, to me, it says Chillicothe, Ohio. Pretty sure that's not how you pronounce it. Or Chillicothe, Ohio. Anyway, it's zip code 45601. I've got a couple properties on the MLS that we're going to look at just to see if those properties will cash flow. We're going to underwrite those and kind of get into that. And then if not, we're going to look at what an off-market campaign to that area would look like. So let me look at my notes and let me make sure. I got to figure out how to mute this while I'm doing live streams because I'm getting over I got a pretty nice little cough. So forgive me if it gets annoying. I don't know how do I mute my. I think that was the mute button. All right. Anyway, all right. So let's see. What am I thinking of? Okay, so today we are going to underwrite. Somebody correct me. Chillicothe, Ohio. If you are focused on that market or some surrounding market, let me know. We're looking for a member in that market to come and join us in our community of married busy parents who are acquiring 1 to 4 rentals or flips a year. And so I'm going to pull up some demographic. I'm just going to talk about some demographic. Then we're going to look at some properties that are on the MLS, and then also what an off-market potential is there and the filters that we use to do that. I think I already said it. Now I'm being redundant. So Chillicothe, population for the 2020 census was about 22,000 people. That is a change. It's roughly flat, but there hasn't been a change. So the 2010 census was 21,901. So there is a slight uptick in growth, which is important. Anytime that we look at new markets, one of the things that's got to stand out is there is some population growth. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be, a huge swing. It just needs to show some growth versus negative. If there's a negative growth there, there's something else going on. We just want to stay away from that. Average home value is 194,000. Typical 3-bedroom rent is around $1,400, according to my sources. One thing I need to note here is, or try to find out for these, does that include any utilities? It's a big part of underwriting that we're going to get into here in a minute. This is what some people would consider a rural market. We have a lot of success in rural markets. Our members have a lot of success in rural markets. And so we're gonna talk mainly when we do these about smaller markets, like, well, we're going Chillicothe. I'm gonna focus on ones that I can pronounce going forward. The distance or drive to the nearest major, like MSA, is Columbus, Ohio, which is about an hour from there. Let me swap screens and we'll kind of get into this. Additional notes. Older housing stock from the early to mid 1900s in the town. There is stable demand, and it is the county seat. So, okay, cool. So let me share my screen, and we're going to get into this. If you have any questions or comments, please light up the chat. I'll try to figure out how to get to those as we go through this. So, get the right one. Okay, so this is obviously Google Maps. So we're right dab in the middle of Ohio. Again, just south of Columbus, just east of Cincinnati. One of the reasons why I like these very rural areas, this is not very rural to me. One, I like these smaller towns when they're within driving distance of big cities. Usually what we've seen happen, what a lot of our members have seen happen, is when these big cities start getting overpopulated, it pushes people out. And usually you can draw a 30-minute ring around Cincinnati or 30-minute ring, 30-mile radius around Columbus. And those are usually going to be the next hot spot. So that's why we chose, one of the reasons why we're looking at this market. Also, we're looking for a member to join our community in this market. And that member could be, I need that. Anybody who is just starting or has, 1 to 3 rentals, and they're looking to scale. Okay, so that's where we are on the map. There are I've picked out 4 properties here that are on the MLS. We're going to take at least 1 or 2 of those through an underwriting session. Then we're going to look at potentially what's off market. The first one I'm going to show you is this 240 Caldwell. What is it? Oh, wrong window. 240 Caldwell Street. Actually, no, we're not going to show this. When I brought it up last week when I was doing prep, it was not contingent. So I'm not gonna mess with this one. I just noticed that it's showing contingent on Zillow. So yeah, we're not gonna mess with that one. The next one on my list, and I've got 2 other ones to look at other than this one right here, is 322 Vine Street. We are going to look at Zillow data. I know Zillow gets a bad rap, but it is actually a pretty good tool for a lot of folks. So this one, 320, let's just go through what the listing looks like real quick. Not a great picture there, but that's okay. Let's just look at this outside. Inside looks nicely remodeled. Very nice job. I'm a sucker for an arched hallway entrance. This is probably closed up, actually not a fireplace. Just good. This looks really nice. I like the colors. They're kind of following our color scheme with, I don't know exactly what color that is, but it's the alabaster that Chip and Joanna Gaines made so popular. It's pretty good. Okay, so we're going to look at this. We're going to take it into underwrite, into Deal Check, which is the calculator that I've used for years in underwriting because it makes it so quick and simple. We're going to be done here in about an hour after all the things that we're going to look at, and this underwriting portion is going to take us just a few minutes. A couple of things I just want to look at on the Zillow listing real quick. It 197 is the list price, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, built in 1920. Very small lot. And I was kind of questioning this picture. Like, is this the same house? Like, that's why I said this is not a great picture, because I don't know. It doesn't. Is it the same? We'll look here in just a second. Completely renovated, new roof, huge. We can talk about the core 4 roof, windows, also very big expense, kitchen, bath, and much more. Privacy for its backyard, first floor utility room, move-in ready. Owner is a licensed agent. Okay, so owner is an agent who apparently does flips. It has been on Zillow for 92 days, which if you're having trouble, I'm not going to get into that. That's important. That's an important number to kind of focus on. If is the number of days on the market. I'll get into that here in just a minute. Somebody remind me what I was talking about there. I want to see down at the bottom if there's been any price adjustments. If no, it would usually be listed right here. I just want to make sure I'm not thinking of something different. Okay, so let's go to Deal Check. First thing I'm gonna do is grab the address here, 322 Vine Street, and I already logged in. I didn't want to. I already logged in to Deal Check, and I'm gonna look at this just as a pure rental, fully renovated. So there's no. It also makes underwriting easier versus doing a BRRRR or a flip. This is completely done. We're gonna do import data. We're gonna start typing 322 Vine Street. We're in Chillicothe, Chick-fil-A. All right. No, we're not going to save that. So what Deal Check should do is pull all the information from the listing. That's why I wanted to make sure when I looked at it that it does come in accurate. It is a house, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 1,200 square feet, built in 1920, lot size 2,600. This has central heat and air. So this is interesting. Deal Check estimate is a lot lower from what the where was it? The estimate was of 192, and our buyer or our seller here has it listed a little bit higher than that. Just for the sake of underwriting, I'm going to say 194.5. We're going to make adjustments to that here in a minute. The RentCast estimate. So RentCast is a sister company to Deal Check, very much like Rentometer. It'll give you an idea of what rent should go for. I think I said 1,400 earlier. Yeah, 1,400. This is a little bit lower. On the conservative, I'm the conservative underwriting, so I'm going to underwrite at 1,100 when we get to that here in just a second. We're going to see if this sucker will cash flow. Currently, what it is, tax amount. That is that's really low. I hope it's true. I think property tax is just another form of theft, but maybe might need to do some due diligence if we were serious about this to make sure that's the right number. Also, property insurance is probably right in line, but we want to make sure we get a quote from Steadily or somebody like that, just to make sure. And you'll notice the photos are imported all automatically. So active status, we get the listing agent's name. All right, we're going to save and customize. That way it takes us right into the workbook here. Now, one of the things I'm going to point out, you already see this red X. I've got my criteria that I'm looking for, and we can edit this. And one of the things I love about Deal Check is I can set this up and I can instantly, you saw the import the data, instantly know if this is worth pursuing or not. And currently I've got cash flow at $200 per door, cash on cash return at least 10%, and then debt coverage ratio is at least 1.25. The purpose of putting debt coverage ratio, this is what banks look at when you're thinking about doing a DSCR loan or things of that nature. They want to see that the debt coverage ratio is at least 1.25 for that. So let's go back and start playing with some numbers here. We're financing off the purchase price. We're going to do a 25% down payment. We are looking at a DSCR loan type loan. Rates have come down a little bit. Let's just say 7.5, not 75. That would be horrible interest rate. 7.5% interest, long term. Excuse me, 30 years. We do not have PMI because we're putting so much down. Purchase cost 3%. Rehab, even though it says it's fully rehabbed, I'm going to just budget $2,000 in there. Most of the time when we come in and stuff like this, there is going to be something that needs to be renovated, especially if there's already a tenant in place. If there's a tenant in place, usually there's stuff that they want fixed. Usually there's just is. 2,000. Again, we're going to leave the gross rent at 11.10. Vacancy rate at 10%. It's pretty high. Let's go down to 7. Operating expenses. So I do self-management. I put 40% in here so I don't necessarily pay myself a property management fee. If you're hiring a property manager or you want to pay yourself, you want to make sure that number is in there. That's why I stick around 40%. And again, this is just a rule of thumb, quick napkin test. If we wanted to go in here and itemize, if we got serious about this, one of the things I would suggest is you go in and itemize and knock out all the different stuff, right? Where you see imports of property taxes. Again, want to make sure that's correct. Insurance, property management fee, and all that stuff. So let's take that off and just assume we're at 40%. Anything, around 30, if you're at 30% or lower on the operating expenses, I got to question if the math's right? So 30 to 40%, even higher, up to 50% if you have a professional, you're paying a professional property manager, or you're paying yourself. Long-term projections, I'm not going to change anything here. Depreciation on the land, it's already calculated. I'm not going to look at doing anything else with that. Okay, so confirm we made some adjustments. Notice that the red, we're still not, this would turn into a green check mark if it hits all of our criteria. So let's look at the property analysis. And we're going to focus on the red stuff, right? So if we were to buy this at listing price or close to it, we're going to get a negative of $448 a month and a negative 9.3 cash on cash return. So not very good. So let's see if we can make some adjustments and whatnot to this. And there's not anything we can do to force value or force appreciation because it's completely remodeled. And they did some big stuff, big ticket items with the roof and the windows. So let's see. Let's go back to our rent, gross rent. Let's say we do get $1,400 a month. It's not going to change. I mean, we're still not going to have the green check mark, but let's see what that looks like. All right. So cash flow did come up, still negative. Cash on cash is still negative as well. Let's just look at a couple of things here. Operating expenses, vacancy. You got to plan for vacancy. For one of our units, we've got a resident who's been there for 13 years. I think when we underwrote it, it was probably somewhere between 5 and 7% vacancy, and and she'll probably be there until she's no longer with us. But when that day comes, there's going to be a lot of work to do inside that unit. She's been there for a while, right? So it's going to take a while to do that. So it's 7%. If you think about it, if you put 10% vacancy, out of 365 days a year, that's 36 and a half days that you're expecting it to be vacant a year. So just be thinking about that when you're doing this. I'm a little bit more aggressive on the vacancy, and hoping our tenants stay longer, which I had a conversation with a guy earlier who he focused on single families, and with his property managers, they worked out a deal where any new move-ins require a 2-year lease agreement to help cut down some of the turnover costs, which I thought was interesting because I'm starting to move to month, because if a tenant becomes a problem for one reason or the other, I would like the option to not renew with them. I guess that says something about our screening process, but we've had really good luck here recently. Okay, so back to this property analysis. We're just not anywhere close, right? So let's look. There's one thing that I'm going to look at sales comps real quick just to see if we're really close. Estimated ARV based on average price per square foot is 106. That does not seem like it's very accurate. One of the things that could be driving that number is if this is a regentrifying area, and where there's a lot of investors coming in and buying up homes that need to be remodeled and remodeling them. This may just be on the front side of this, so we'd want to look at that a little bit deeper, which we can here in just a minute. But this one's sold. Oh, this is right down the street. This is sold in August. Let's take a look and see if it was completely remodeled. Doesn't really matter for this case because if we're looking at cash flow, it doesn't. Let's see. No, it's not. Hasn't been remodeled. So, although the bathroom's nice. Okay. Enough of that. All right. So here's what I would do if I was looking at this property or this in this area. Go to the offer calculator, and this is funny. So one of the things I love about this button in Deal Check is it instantly tells you based on your criteria what you would offer for the property. And this is just probably just not a rental property. So we could say that as the new price. We know that the current owner probably spent more than that in windows to get it where it is. But it takes you also here for the your criteria, and you can adjust those very quickly, and it's going to automatically adjust this. So adjust your highest allowable offer. So let's say what does it say? It's limited by the debt coverage ratio. Okay, let's oh, no wonder. Somehow that got changed to 4. I know what happens. 1.25. Within Deal Check, I know this is maybe it's a feature, not a bug, but if your mouse cursor is here and you move, it does that. So that's why that was so far off. Okay, so that's a little bit closer in line. 1.25. Let's go back up here. And so our highest allowable offer to fit our criteria is $92,500. Still pretty far off the asking price, which, by the way, that does not affect me whatsoever. Sometimes people will ask way too much for their properties. Sometimes I offer way too little for their properties. So Brandon Neal says, hey, what's up, man? Yes, we are looking at Ohio. So this says it's limited by cash on cash return. Let's just play around with the numbers. I'm not suggesting you fudge the numbers to make a deal work. Every time I've done that, I've always gotten it's it's been a financial hit. So let's just see if at least 8%, which still, you're still competing with the stock market, also building equity in the property. At 8% cash on cash, we're at 97,500 is our offer price. So this is pretty similar to what we're seeing a lot in a lot of different markets, is that the MLS just doesn't work from a cash flow perspective. Now, I will say recently we're starting to see some markets come to where it is, there are some deals that potentially cash flow if you can get them for the right price and they're not as far off from the ask as that one is. And so here's one thing we're going to do though. Let's look at what an off market excuse me, an off market campaign to them, or just what's available off market in Chillicothe. Let's see. So this is PropStream. This is it's one of the big data analytics companies. We've used them for years. We've sent out, thousands and thousands of dollars of campaigns based off the data that's in this. They keep making it easier, keep making it just more user friendly, which is huge. So we're going to use it. We're going to look at 45601. Right there is Chillicothe. And the big thing about this, when you're looking at an off-market campaign, at least what we do, is we focus on tired landlords. Tired landlords, usually there's a tenant in place, and the tired landlord being somebody who has owned the property for at least 15 years. Now, the reason why we focus on those is every landlord, having a conversation with one earlier who's been very successful. He's got 22 properties in his portfolio, still works a full-time job. He's a dad. And the bulk of our conversation was this one pain in the property that he has. And I was kind of laughing. I was like, well, everybody has one. I was like, you get rid of this one, you're going to have another one. Something else is going to rear its ugly head. I was like, so everybody has one. And so we're looking for tired landlords who may have that one pain in the butt property. Then this is a problem that you can solve for them. And the reason why we like taking that approach is because most of these tired landlords have multiple properties. Some of them they absolutely love and they want retail pricing for them, which we're not typically the buyer for that. So if we can solve their problem for the pain in the butt property, then we're front of mind when they get ready to dispose of the other properties. So we're going to start here in filters, and let me make sure you guys can see this because sometimes the resolution in PropStream cuts that window off. Okay, cool. All right, so we've starting with our zip code 45601. There are 32,000 properties, excuse me, without any filters. And then we're going to look at the number of tired landlords. Now, it says 98 here. Sometimes PropStream, this is a bug in PropStream where it doesn't always automatically update. The number we're going to focus on is this one up here. So there are, and as we build our filter stack, this is the number we're going to focus on. So we're going to choose tired landlords. Again, they've owned it for 15 years or so. Going to go into residential. We're going to choose single family, 2 to 4 units. You're going to notice that this thing still is starting to move a little bit. Again, this is if we were to build a campaign for this market for you or for somebody else. This is how we would do this. Again, if we're building it for you, you can be rest assured that we're going to lock that zip code in, and you're not going to be competing with somebody else with our system, right? So in this, we're going to exclude anything with an HOA, anything with a pool. Nobody wants to deal with that. People want to deal with it. Landlords, it can cause problems. So we just want to get rid of any properties that have an HOA or a pool. We want to look at properties that are off market, not currently listed. It's always an interesting conversation when a realtor calls you, responding to your mailer, wanting to know why you're contacting their client directly. And, sometimes there's things that pass by in mail. Anyway, off market owner information, we want to look at. We don't have to worry about owner occupied because it is a tired landlord. It already automatically filters that out. But ownership type, we want to look at individual, not corporate, not mixed or trust, primarily because individuals are just easier to get in touch with, and you know who you're dealing with directly. And I'm going to show you that here in just a second. There are other options that we can use to filter this down, like, for example, value and equity. Most rental properties are going to fall within the 150, 250 price bucket, which we would put here for estimated value. For the sake of this exercise, we're not going to do that because I want to show you a couple of different things. When we view the over 1,600 properties that have made it through the filter so far. So we're talking about tired landlords, single family, 1 to 4 units, residential, excluding HOA, excluding pools, we're off market, and that are owned by an individual. Right here, owned by an individual. Now, there's probably a lot of people say, well, I want an absentee owner out of state, out of country, whatever the case is. There's typically some added measures of motivation, and finding that fine line between how much do you filter out in a market. It's just kind of, excuse me, it is something you can work through, right? So let's view 1,600 properties, and let's just look at a couple of these, and we'll take one and run it back through deal check. Let's see. Look at it. Trying to find, let me go back to our filters, and that way we can combine something to Vine Street that we just underwrote. Go to property details, and we're gonna do a 3-bedroom minimum, 2-bath, and you can see, or was it 1.5? So let's do 1. You can see that our number of available properties just by changing or adding the bedroom and bath went down dramatically. Which is a good thing. Let's see. That doesn't seem like a right number. All right, this one's pretty close. So this is 854 Orange Street. It's close in equity. 854 Orange Street, off market, single family residence, no short sale, non-owner occupied. It is occupied by somebody. Length of ownership, we would really like to know this. It makes me question, is it hitting the proper filter from a tired landlord? Because the way PropStream identifies tired landlords is somebody who's owned it for 15 years. And how did it get into this bucket if we don't know the length of ownership? It's very possible that mortgage transaction history. So it was a transaction back in 2009. Okay. So right at that 15-year mark. Okay. So you see all the property details. You see who the owner is. A little bit more information. So there are several pictures in here we can take a look at. Not as up to date as the one we just looked at. Kind of a dark bathroom. Could have had something to do. No, it's actually not that bad. Must be a basement. I don't see a second floor on this one. Not by that picture anyway. A little bit bigger lot size. Built 30 years later. Still needs some updates. Has a garage. I didn't see a garage on the other one. Not terrible. All right, so let's take this. Let's take this 854 Orange Street. Let's go back to our deal check and add it in. Before I get away from that, what I would do if we were focused on this, we would continue to fine tune. I tell you what, let's go to deal check first, and then I'll come back. We'll come back to that. So we're gonna rental property data, 854 Orange Street, search it. Again, we're treating this as a rental, so assuming there is somebody who's in there paying rent already. And it's smaller. It's 300 square foot smaller, so that means those bedrooms are tiny. Doesn't have a garage though. That's nice. Let's see. Rent assessment is right at 1100, where Vine Street was. I'm gonna have to check my sources on the 1400. That's a little odd. Says value on the property taxes much higher than what we saw on Vine Street. Remember, the property tax on Vine Street was $255, which I thought was wrong. So always do your due diligence. Don't just rely on the tool to import the data and make sure it's correct. And then now it pulls in the pictures we were just looking at. So let's save and customize this, and let's just look at what this may look like different. It's not for sale, right? It's not currently for sale. So we don't know what their asking price would be. After repair value, we're just going to leave all that the same. Same terms for the loan. What did I do? 7.5% for the interest rate. Purchase cost 3%. Rehab cost, I'm going to put 2,000 in there, just like we did before. Rental income 1080. Vacancy rate, we're going to change to 7. Operating expenses at 40%. Imports and land value. Okay, so now let's look at our property analysis. It looks very similar to the other one, right? Negative about $400 a month in cash flow, cash on cash at 8.6%. So how do we do this? What do we do to look at finding this or getting this off-market property cash flow? I'm gonna say this debt coverage is not right. 1.25. And we're at 72,000 based off of our investing criteria. I want to show just how changes these numbers just a little bit can fudge it, right? So we're at let me go back. Let me do this real quick. Property analysis as it stands right now, we're at negative 382 and negative 8.6 on cash return. If we go in here and we change up our 8% cash on cash return, where was the other? Did I uncheck cash flow? I did. Then we change that. Let's go back to our purchase worksheet, and let's say we're going to make some moderate. Maybe here's what typically happens with these other properties. Tenants move in, and the landlords never go up on rent. So it's very possible that 1080 that they're paying in rent was the rate that they got when they moved in, and it's very possible that market rent is going to be $1,400 currently. Let's just see what changed, and very much similar to that one we did earlier on Vine Street. Let's see what that looks like now. We're still negative cash flow. We're still negative on cash return. Not something I would suggest doing, right? But let's look at our offer calculator. That number has come up a little bit. And then another thing we can look at is financing, right? This is where the power of seller financing comes in play with a property. When a property doesn't cash flow and seller financing is an option, right? This person, at least according to PropStream, does not have a loan value, has a loan value of $0. So we can assume they own it outright, which usually means there's not a whole lot of motivation there to sell. But if there is, for other reasons that hopefully you can unpack, then there's potential there to adjust for financing. So let's say instead of 25% down, you're putting 10%, right? And let me kind of set the scene. What I'm talking about here is we did an off-market campaign. Again, I'm going to go through that here in just a minute, what that could look like in PropStream, or what that could look like, period. This is going to be on our list because it hits comes through our filters. Start having a conversation with the potential seller. They like you, you like them. They're okay with doing seller financing at 10% down and let's just say 3% interest rate for 30 years. Okay. Those are the terms that you're able to negotiate because you're such a good, strong negotiator. If that were the case, right? Instead of putting 25% down, you're now putting 10. Instead of a 7.5 interest rate, you're putting down 3%. Now there's probably other terms that are going to go into play here with that kind of structured deal. Like maybe it's on an arm and you have to cash out, refinance down in 5 years, whatever the case is. Those are not really apparent here for us to underwrite it at the moment. So now we look at our property analysis and all of a sudden everything's positive. Now it's still not within the right area that we want to look at. I myself want to have a minimum of $200 a month in cash flow, and I want to have a minimum of 8% cash on cash return. So let's go to our offer calculator. Now that we have seller financing terms, what was our price before? It's like 102. It's now, in order to hit our criteria, even though it took out cash flow, let's put cash flow in there of 200 per month minimum, right? It adjusts a little bit more. So now at 142, this is a deal that works for us, right? Does it work for why are we still red here? Yeah. DSCR is less than 4. Well, that's because I don't know why it keeps defaulting to 4. Oh, I know why. That's because in my settings, somehow it got changed to 4. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. That's just going to bug me. We're going to change this to 8. Okay. Now we can go back to, what was the address on this one? 854 Orange. Now we have the green check. Okay. We know our highest allowable offer is 142. And if we get it for 142 and everything else stands true with insurance and taxes and rent, this will be a pretty solid deal for us, right? Okay. So let me check just to make sure we're still alive. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. And Rodney Johnson is here, says love deal check. Absolutely. Rodney, how long have you been using it? All right, so next thing I want to show you, and this is how we'll wrap up, is what an off-market campaign to, is it Chillicothe, Ohio, 45601. So we've pretty much built our list here. We've got 228 properties as we set today. Now I'm going to change, let me go back to this 3.2, or 3.1, excuse me. Change it to 2.1. Still a huge difference. I don't know why that is. There's back to 1600. unless there's just not, or just some really big houses there. 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 4, 2, 3. So this is where, no bedrooms. 2, 2, 4, 2. I wonder if there's a lot of them that the data is just missing, and that's why, that says it's just a lot. Okay, so here's what I would do if we were to do a campaign for you. Basically, and what I mean by that is, if we do a campaign for it's a done for you service, you get the list. We would pull the list for you. You get a copy of it, and then we send your mailers out for you, and I can show you what those templates look like. If you want to see those, just send me a DM, and I'll show you what those look like. But if I were to pull this for you, I would start here: tired landlords, residential, single family, or 1 to 4 units, no HOA, no pool, not on the MLS. So we're going to say off market, and owner individual. Owner is an individual, not an entity or a trust, because they're just easier to get in touch with. And so from there, I would have a conversation with you and say, okay, what's your how much are you willing to spend? Where do you want to be in that range? And if is there a certain number of bedrooms and baths? We would start to build your list that way. So let's say it's 2-bedroom, 1 bath is the minimum. There's 365 properties that fit that criteria of that being the minimum. If you wanted a max, we can also put the max out there. And by the way, the way that most of our members do this, in order to get that 1 to 4 units a year, whether that be a flip or for a rental, is they send somewhere between 300 and 500 mailers a quarter. And so this fits right in line with that, and that's just in one zip code. We try to encourage our members to at least claim 3 to 5 zip codes and round their target market, just to make sure, again, we're not, causing competition there. But basically, if you don't know how to do this from here, basically we would set up, it's like this. We would export or save to a list. I would then further clean the list up. Let me go through here and do, there's not one that I want to show at the moment. But when you export, let's just do this. You just say we're going to create a new, we're going to call it Chillicothe, I don't know. And so we save this to a list, and then we go down to our list, and I clean it up just a little bit so that, where'd it go? Right here. So that we're not wasting money on advertisements. One thing that I look at is to make sure there's a street address at the very beginning of this list, or of the property address, because sometimes data, PropStream pulls from public records or county records. Sometimes they're just not up to date. And great, there are some here, so this is a good example. So typically, if there is not a street address for the property in the data, that usually means it's an empty lot. And so we just take those out of the list so that we don't spend time creating a mailer, or sending, or wasting money on a stamp just to get a return to sender, or a phone call saying, hey, you want to buy the lot? Your letter said you wanted to buy rental properties. So we just delete those, remove them. The other thing I do to curate addresses is we're not interested in buying apartments or units or townhomes that may be considered. So if anything has a unit number, we would eliminate that from that as well on the property address. So we would delete those two. And then the other one we look at here is the mailing address. Now, the mailing address, the owner definitely can be living in a condo or something that has a unit number. Don't really care about that. What I do focus here is this person owns a lot. This would be a great tired landlord to talk to about who, tell me about your biggest pain in the butt property. Let me solve that problem for you, because they've owned quite a few for at least 15 years. That's awesome. So I'm going to scroll down here. There's no name on this one, and we would get rid of it. But what I'm looking for, and it's usually at the bottom, are these PO boxes. We've just noticed that with campaigns that go to PO boxes, we get a higher return to sender. If you've never had a PO box before, I've had a PO box before, and it's seemingly like every couple of years it changes the number. So we just remove these, and primarily because we get a lot of return to senders from that. So we would curate the list, we would export it for you, and then we would do the mail merge into the template and send those out on a routine basis. So let me look at some things here just to make sure we're still live and everything. See if there's any more comments. Nothing yet. So, all right, I think we got all that situated. So, if you found this helpful, let me know. I want to do these every week. If you want me to look at your target market, text me your target zip codes. 3 to 5 is usually the best, but in one, like we did today, is super fine. So I'm actively looking for a member to take over Chillicothe. You can educate me on how to pronounce it correctly, but we're looking for a member of our community to target in on this area of Ohio. So if you want to join us in the community of married busy parents, you can start a free trial by going to the link. There's somewhere around this video, there's going to be a pinned comment where you can start a free trial and join us in the community. So hope you found this helpful. If you did, I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM. I guess I will see you guys next week.